after Bruno, the audience wasn't ready for Bruno to leave yet. He was just so beloved.
Yeah.
And the business was not drawing. It was starting to go down and down because Bruno wasn't wrestling anymore.
Okay.
And Bob...
do you think Backlund was a poor draw in comparison?
Well, Bob just couldn't fill his shoes. You know, I mean, in those days, Bob, who was a good wrestler, great athlete, and he was in such great shape that he didn't really look that big. He was, you know, like in such great physical condition, but he didn't look like a gorilla.
Okay.
So people were used to seeing Bruno versus Ivan Koloff or Professor Tanaka or Killer Kowalski. And now Bob Backlund's out there that looks like a high school kid at, 220 pounds. And the people just didn't buy it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just wasn't ready yet.
So 2 questions for you on Backlund. So we grew up, that was the era we really grew up, right?
Yep.
We grew up disliking Backlund, always looking for the heel to win. But as we've gotten older, we have this huge respect for Backlund.
True.
But I've heard you in the past on some other interviews saying that, 2 questions for you, that you felt that Bob almost bankrupted the WWE.
Is that
why did if you felt that way, why did Senior feel like he had to keep the strap on Backlund?
Oh, well, I don't know, and I don't know about the bankruptcy thing. I know that the business was going down and down.
Fair.
And I also knew that the way the business was in those days, Vince McMahon Sr. and he had a couple partners, but they were also involved in other things. They'd finance boxers. They were at the horse track. I mean, they were promoters. But if their wrestling business went down, that hurt them. So they, would do whatever they could to make the most money they, could. And it was a time I saw business going down. I knew the people were ready to not accept the fact Bruno's done. Mm-hmm. And I was a kid who was known as Bruno's protege.
Right.
Even though the promoters would say, hey, what's that kid's name? Bruno's protege. Oh, they're Larry. Maybe we'll bring him in. So I said, I knew whoever could talk Bruno back into the ring for one more thing would become a big star. Plus all the publicity came out of New York in the magazines. So if I could get Bruno to do this, it would make my career.
Yep.
So here's the poor guy, broke his neck recently. Did I care? No!
Nice.
But I was taught not to care. I was taught to do what was good for business. And I realized, for me, good business, if I get back in the ring with Bruno or anybody, I would be the guy.
So you go to Bruno first.
So I took a long shot and went to Bruno because nothing's going to happen.
Did you go through the weeds on the side of the house?
No.
Low crawl.
This is a big favor. He might have to crawl up on this one. I don't know.
No, I just ran it past him. And he thought about it for a while.
Okay.
Because but then...
How long's a while? Were you maybe
squirming for a month, maybe like a month or so. And then
that's a long while.
And then finally he came up with a way to do it. I mean, it was my idea,
so
but Bruno was the one that...
Okay.
And along with that, it was the secret of programming.
Yeah.
The secret of programming is what sells out arenas every month. The secret of programming is kind of what's lost today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Larry.
I mean, you got
right
but
now.
my partner was actually calling you the Bruno Sammartino of the MMA world.
I believe he is.
Now,
I believe
you bring
he is.
that up. There's if I can hold you for a moment, I like to tell a story. Out of the blue, Bruno Sammartino calls me up on my cell phone. Now, I had never met the man at this point. And this is early in my career when I'm just running with the NWA belt. And I'm doing stuff with the Ultimate Fighting Championship and stuff like that. I don't even think I was with the WWF yet.
Okay.
Again, now known as WWE. And he calls me up. Out of the blue, he goes, young man, I hear all the good things that you're doing. Keep up the good work. I like what you do with the NWA belt. Bring back the prestige and stuff like that. I'm thinking, so when I finally did go to a convention, again, I don't know where it was at. I heard that he was going to be there. I went out of my way to go in there to meet him and to shake his hand and say thank you. Because, did he have to do that? He didn't have to do that. So that was great.
Now, you have an advantage, right? Because, true tough guy in the world.
Okay, what do you mean? Advantage of what?
Well,
what? Okay.
Elaborate, Mr.
I'm
Muntz.
going to elaborate on 2 points because it's almost
Quite the
it's a
advantage.
double-edged sword.
Quite the advantage.
You are a true tough guy, right? So
Oh, yeah.
you go into a situation in professional wrestling. You kind of.
Am I pinning him?
Well, I can't
Do I get
imagine
to
him
pin him?
being nervous, right? Because again,
God, help.
people are shitting a brick.
Sure.
Yeah, this is Dan Severn.
Sure.
On the other hand, for example, hate to call out another broadcaster, but then you have to do jobs for like Hannibal, for example.
No.
How do you handle something
How
like
did
that? A true tough guy who has to sit there
I see-
and do
I see how
his
this is
job
going.
for Hannibal.
You must like him a lot or something.
Now-
What the? on earth?
Let me. I'll put it like this. When I was first working,
Why,
when I was
Dan?
first
Why?
working with the WWF,
Yeah.
Okay.
it was rather interesting because like the first few weeks, as again you'll find it hard to believe after this is all done because I talk, and there's a lot of people that before they ever seen any of my interviews are like, dude, we didn't know you talked at all. You just stay back there and you scare us. Well,
Right.
Typically, I'm a quiet person. I am normally a quiet person. You ask me a question, I will give you a very thorough answer, but because it's so thorough, you'll be like, going, you already have half a dozen other questions. I mean, literally, you could come in here with only asking me one question at the beginning of this interview. Oh, we're good for the next couple hours easily because I'll tell you, not only will I answer your question, I will usually throw on a story to reinforce it on top of that. Again, that's from the decades of being involved in athletics, but then also dealing with people in different sectors of amateur wrestling, freestyle wrestling, amateur wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, judo, sambo, tough man contests, no holds barred to mixed martial arts, but then throw in the wacky roll of professional wrestling on there. That's why I always tell people that if variety is the spice of life, Dan Severn is the spiciest person I know, because we're dealing with all those kinds of people.
I think he's trying to get you to forget your question. How did you put this guy over?
Well, okay. No,
Thank you.
no. Well, again,
Oh no, you don't, Dan. Come back.
But actually, I'm glad you said it because I was going to simply say, now, where were we? That's what I was going to say there. No, I mean, in the wacky...
Was it a roll up? I didn't see this.
No,
Go on.
in the basic element of professional wrestling, there are times it's kind of going, this guy can't carry my jock strap. and now you want me to put somebody over.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that in the magical world of professional wrestling, anything is possible. You could have a midget out there with a feather. That's going to beat the giant because he runs up to the giant and he starts to tickle him. And the giant starts to, and at the point that the giant falls on his back,
Grabs the
and then
tights.
he grabs the leg. 1, 2,
two,
3. Again,
Fast count.
anything can be done in the magical world of professional wrestling. And I leave it at that. And I always tell people, I go, let's keep these two industries separate. Dan Severn also has been involved in movies, known as being an actor. Also capable of doing stunts and things of that nature. Most professional wrestlers don't even realize when they're doing their falls and things of that nature, they are doing the most basic elements of martial arts break falls to hit and land and on as much body mass as possible to dissipate impact. If you simply go down on a point of an elbow, so you could take out your shoulder, you could lots of injuries. So the more that you can lay flat and try to also protect the back of your head.
How smooth was your conversion, learning how to take bumps after amateur wrestling? You're not taking those kind
all
of
my
bumps.
stuff was involved in the combat arts first. So I learned from the combat arts first how to protect myself. So now going into professional wrestling, it was easy to convert over.
Easy.
The hard part was I'm so concerned about your safety that I'm like a pipe wrench. More than one type, they're like, dude, lighten up, loosen up. I go, but I'm afraid with the cocoa butter, whatever you got on, or the whatever that's going to make your muscles shine,
Baby oil.
I may lose my grip on you.
Yeah.
And literally, sometimes I have to pipe wrench down on them because if I do something wrong, it's not me who's going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. And I,
One with Kurt Angle. Could you beat him?
Oh my God!
well,
Wow. Wait a minute. I want the Dan Severn from the '80s, by the way, to answer this question.
But see, someone didn't do their didn't do their study here. That
What-
match,
what happened?
that match already took place.
With who? Which one?
Well, who did you bring up?
He said Angle and Lesnar.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
what did I miss?
there's only
Could only
Brock.
well
Brock
logically
is,
it could only be Angle, right?
Yeah, Brock is a lot younger. You gotta look
Yeah,
at,
right.
at my age and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So, there was a match between Kurt and myself.
So
Well,
do
fill
tell,
us
what
in with
happened?
that Tom Selleck smile over there. Look at that mustache!
And those
Oh my
eyebrows.
God!
I'll just say it went well for me.
It went well for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Magnum Mangle. Very good.
Well, no, I didn't
Very
say
good.
didn't bang. So
Kurt really
I
does
was.
suck.
He was young in his career, and I was much older in my career.
Okay.
So again, that's what I just say that it's like the first time that I was being interviewed, and somebody said, "Well, how was it fighting Forrest Griffin?" I go, "Who?" And they're like, well, Forrest Griffin. I go, I know it. I fought him. Now when I made that comment, now they're thinking Dan Severn took one too many shots ahead. And I go, no. I said no.
Had so many fights.
I just tell people I've had 100 plus fights.
Yeah.
The victories are nothing but a blur. The losses, I could tell you everybody I lost to, and I can tell you how I lost because I either let myself down or I let my my guard down here at this point or that point. So I know about the losses. The victories, they just blend.
Thoughts on Ken Shamrock while we have you here?
What's that? Oh,
Thoughts on Ken Shamrock, who you obviously have great history with.
well, I mean, ask me the question. I mean, if you bring it up, I think, what?
How about the way you feel recently with the steroids? I heard you recently talking over the past couple of years involving Shamrock with steroids.
Well, no, I mean, it's not that I talk about over a couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
I pride myself in the fact that I'm lifetime chemical free. Mm-hmm. Now, I tell people, go find another professional wrestler alone that can make that claim. And I tell people, go and find someone that said that I bought anything from them or that they did this for me or did that for me. You're not going to find it because I didn't do it. Just like I made a comment earlier. I've only did 2 training camps in a 20-year cage fighting career. Find some, put it out. I might have did a run on my own. I did ongoing classes at my training facility, but was I training like you look at guys on the current? They're going into training camps from 4, 5, 6 months out. I did 2. Once for 32 days for UFC number 5, and once for 35 days for the Ultimate. I set 2 different records. In UFC 5, shortest tournament victory I ever won. Took care of 3 men in the shortest time they had ever seen.
Freeman won it, yep.
And then in the Ultimate, just over 1 hour between my 3 people. And this is in up in Colorado Springs in mile high elevation. So I said, I always tell people, just think if I would have actually applied myself, might have made something of myself, But I'm happy with where I'm at.
Might have, yeah.
Are you surprised to see Shamrock still going? He's actually still going now in Impact.
Is he really?
He really is.
Oh, okay.
No,
All
he
right.
really is. I mean, I'm surprised.
I've seen a couple of the matches that I don't think I'd be really all that proud of, but I love Bob Backlund.
How could you not?
I mean, I literally ended up meeting him at an event. Actually, in New Jersey in Atlantic City. It's known as the Martial Arts Hall of Honors event. I mean, it's like 1,800 people show up for this event for their banquet alone. Who knows over the course of the Friday, Saturday that they have all these various demonstrations and seminars that are taking place. I knew of Bob Backlund, but I actually met him through usually on a Thursday night. They have different events that take place, and they had a social gathering, and I had the opportunity to sit next to Bob Backlund and get to just talk with him a great deal. He ended up giving me one of his books. He signed and gave me one of his books, and I always tell people I read a lot of things. Very rarely do I actually read a book. I just because I read too many volumes. I read certain things for specific. I ended up reading this whole book, and we bumped into each other. He said, "Did you ever get a chance to peruse my book?" I said, "I read it from cover to cover." And he goes, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "I think I was reading my own story." I said, "So many similarities of our background, stuff like that." And I mean, I was very, very complimentary, but I not just to be, just to be, saying niceties to him right there, I really strongly that there's a lot of similarities between the two of us.
Is that the book that you spent a couple of summers ago calling me every day? I'm on chapter
Fantastic
5.
book,
Oh, it's
incredible
great.
book.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it is. I mean, but he was ahead of. I think he was ahead of his time at the time.
Really? Okay.
We grew up on Bob Backlund.
Yeah, we did.
Hating Bob Backlund for many,
We
many
like bad
years.
guys.
We like the bad
Oh,
guys.
We were
okay, I
into
gotcha.
Valentine in Morocco and
But
Sergeant
as
Slaughter.
you get older, you realize what Bob Backlund
Oh,
meant for the industry. He,
absolutely.
again, I used to go to the Garden every month. I used to sit front
amazing.
row, and
It's amazing.
But again, he was one of these guys that I can relate to because he was such a technical machine out
Yeah.
there. He just
Oh, yeah.
he knew
Oh,
how to
yeah.
wrestle and things of that nature.
yeah.
And whereas a lot of guys they don't.
And he was over for all the right
and I
reasons.
got to tell you,
for
we
those
used to hate
reasons.
his interviews, but as you get
He's-
older, you
he's good.
appreciate
He's actually
his interviews. They were
He's-
incredible.
Especially when we would get mad. Bob Backlund mad? Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the funny
Gosh,
part is
Dolly.
because he'll put on that suit and that tie, and then he'll start raving and screaming like a madman or something like this. It's like such a contrast. But when you get to really know, he's very down to earth, very likable individual.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of likable, I'm not so sure that I like the way you word this because he'll come over here and choke me out. So let me see if I can find a
But
better
that's
way.
why it's good that
I'm
we're
glad
all-
you're all the way over there. Hey, over there.
I'm on my Prozac today. We're okay. We're okay there, guys.
Great. Two guys with Prozac bouncing questions and answers. Wonderful. Holy imbalance, Batman.
But we're only good for about another, because my Prozac will be wearing off.
It's running out. Oh no! Was there ever a fight where you were actually, beforehand? I understand. Maybe you get butterflies. I would assume that. Was there actually ever an opponent that made you go beforehand? Man, I better be careful tonight. Anybody?
Oh well, I mean, as you were asked this question, a couple of thoughts were already coming to my mind of questions I've been asked previously,
Okay.
and I guess the wording was there anyone that I went out there with ill contempt for? And yes.
How about weary of their capabilities of potentially injuring you?
Well, no, but there was there too. Like for example, Tank Abbott.
Tank Abbott.
For one of the first times I ever saw Tank Abbott, I saw him knock out like a 400-pound sumo with one punch. But the part was okay. That was like okay, he clocked him. But the part that really that got me was as his opponent laid there, his body just stiffening on up in his toes. I mean, what is known as involuntary.
Yeah.
I call it the chicken flop. You can't. It's involuntary, but your body all stiffens on up, and you start going to shaking that motion. While the guy laid there, helpless, defenseless, Take Abbott went down and struck him again.
Hit him again.
In the moment that he struck him, I'm like, oh, I think my mind, I'm like, you son of a bitch. I can't believe what you just did. I go, how can you call yourself a martial artist or any type of person like that? I'm thinking, one day if I should ever get you inside this cage, evil will have begotten a greater evil.
The first time I met Hogan, I was on my way home and I thought I'd stop. I'd heard about this band, and I thought I'd stop, and listen to the band play a set, which I did. A big old blonde-headed guy playing the bass guitar. So anyway, they finished their set. Well, I'm going to go home. I don't want the wife to worry about me. So I walk out in the parking lot and I hear this deep voice, "Hey, Mr. Orton. Mr. Orton." And I turned around while we were talking about, people trying me and stuff. When you're the Florida heavyweight champion, you weigh 215, everybody tried you.
That's funny.
And I turned around and I looked and I seen Hogan and I went, oh my God, am I in for it now? And I set my feet and he goes, I'd like to get into pro wrestling.
Wow.
He goes, where should I go?
Wow.
I said, go see Hiro Matsuda. I said, he's the best in town. He's at the Sportatorium. Thank you, sir. And I was gone.
Then did he call you like a couple weeks later and go, "Hero broke my leg. Thank you for that advice"?
No, I never got that call, but he did all right.
But you're the guy that the guy that got it all rolling. Then,
You
huh?
know what? It's just something that happened. He would have gotten in business anyway. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
I mean, he was born for it. No doubt about it. But I just happened to be there. Right time, right place.
Yeah, timing is
timing.
still special.
That's
Bob, growing up, we grew up during the Bob Backlund Championship
Sure,
run.
sure.
Okay,
You actually got 2 matches at MSG. You won the first one by countout, and the blow-off match was a lumberjack match, which unfortunately you lost because we were always praying for someone to beat Bob.
So yeah, we hated Bob with a passion, and whoever came into town. And again, I will tell you, growing up, right, I think I sported the cowboy hat for a couple of months.
Yeah, you did.
You did. I have no hair now, but I even had thinner hair when I was younger. You had that curly hair, so it was like you and I just didn't match up. I tried. I had the vest. I tried the hat. It just didn't work. So.
Thank you. Me and Piper and Orndorff was at a place in Allentown 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. And these 3 guys come in. And one of them was dressed like me, one of them like Roddy, and one like Paul. It was amazing.
That is great.
We just had a blast.
That is great.
We really had a good time.
How was it working with the guy we've really learned to appreciate, the great Bob Backlund? How was it working with Bob Backlund?
He's phenomenal. Phenomenal. He could do anything.
Greg,
you talk about a strong man.
Okay.
I don't know pound for pound if I've ever met a stronger human being.
Greg Valentine said something interesting about him, that when he worked with him, he actually learned a lot from him. His style, he was able to pull some of his style off, and he taught actually Bob how to pace himself, believe it or not, a little bit, because they were having those Iron Man matches almost, those really long matches. So.
Bob is amazing, and in shape and fit.
So let me ask you this: coming into the WWE, some wrestlers state that Bob was killing the WWE. Well, I say WWE, I know it was WWF, right? Mm-hmm. That Bob was actually killing. They were getting close to bankruptcy because of him.
Do you think he was a good draw or not?
Was he a good draw?
Remember?
I don't think I ever was on a card where it wasn't sold out. It was damn close.
Okay.
And no matter whether I was working with him or somebody else, I just don't believe.
And long matches, I go, wow, I'm going to go to New York and they have nothing but short matches there.
So you were surprised when they asked you to do this hour thing?
I went,
come
no.
on. Oh, come on.
I want a friggin' break.
Right.
And Bob Backlund, I watched him work. I said, that's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, he was great.
Wrestle him for an hour.
Sure. Did you have a lot of talking with him before?
No, I didn't talk to him at all.
Wow.
We're going to go 1 hour Broadway in the Garden.
Incredible.
My first time there. But here's what happened. I worked with him, and I didn't try to punch him, and we just wrestled. And he was in such good shape that most of his matches, he never blew up ever, and he wouldn't sell for the guy. And
he wouldn't sell.
So the people didn't really get behind him, and he just beat him. And the guys didn't know how to work with him. Well, me going an hour Broadway, after 20 minutes, he finally got tired.
Wow.
So now I'm going to hold him down. I say, Bob, just stay down and sell this. And he respected me, and we liked each other. And I respected him as a shooter and a double tough son of a bitch that could have got mad at me and tore my leg off. But we're out there doing business. Mm-hmm. And he respected me that, he knew I was a little bit tough, but not a wrestling tough like him. So we learned how to work together. I love Bob Backlund after that match, then we always had good matches, and I could lay in some chops on him, but with him it wasn't about that. It was wrestling back and forth, and I really learned how to wrestle from him. I learned some amateur stuff. So I love the matches I have with him.
They were great.
So,
love them.
That's great to hear, because we loved your matches with him.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the former wrestlers speak about Backlund as almost bankrupting the WWF back then because he wasn't a draw.
Is there any legitimacy to that, Greg? That Backlund was a poor draw? Because Mike and I talk about it, and we don't recall that.
We used to go to the Garden regularly. We don't recall.
Well,
was Backlund
when
bad
I
for
wrestled
business
him, we drew.
Yeah, that's always true.
They should have just kept me for 3 years going against that. Just keep going and going.
Probably would have been a good idea.
Don't bring anybody else in.
But what would have been so wrong by putting the belt on you? Let you guys exchange it a couple of times.
Well, they held it up.
Vince.
They held it up the second time.
Yeah.
But I don't know what stopped it. I was in line to get it, and I should have got it, and then I could have wrestled everywhere, and then Vince gave it back to Backlund.
How about October 19th, 1981? Where you actually are smart enough to hop up first and the referee gives you the belt. and you walk out of Madison Square Garden as champion. I'm still angry that they took it away from you.
It was set up like that, double pin,
Rats.
and we both had our shoulders down, but they wanted to hold belt. They wanted to hold the belt back
belt
up.
right.
Excuse me. They wanted to hold the belt up,
Right.
and Ernie Roth, my manager, the Grand Wizard, kept saying, "You might get the belt. You might get the belt."
I mean, I've definitely been out of the territory, you know.
Interesting.
You know,
But
Stan, you were talking about superstar Billy Graham. So at some point, Bob Backlund becomes heavyweight champion. You come
Yeah.
back into the territory. Superstar Graham was not happy. Just we've had Larry Sabrisco in here. Larry thought Bob did a decent job trying to
Serviceable
carry the company. You know, who could carry after Bruno. Superstar Graham clearly wasn't a big fan of Bob's, or just didn't think he had the goods.
He
and
didn't
should have
feel he
stayed
was
champion.
the drawing power.
Well-
how did you feel about Backlund's ability to draw, especially after Bruno? Did you see
well, you know,
a decrease in attendance? Anything that would indicate that
I
Bob
don't,
wasn't the?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You know, I knew Bob and I was Bob was in the Amarillo territory as a green boy also, and that's where I met Bob. And you know, without a doubt, he's probably the best athlete that I ever saw in wrestling.
Really?
Best conditioned,
Nice.
also,
Just
right?
conditioned and
Nice.
everything. I mean, he could go. I mean, he was just a great physical athlete.
Is it true that Senior would put the strap on guys that he knew would be able to handle business if it got real and someone tried to mess with the territory?
I have no idea. You have to ask somebody else.
Okay.
I wouldn't know.
I mean, if Backlund wanted to shoot on you, you guys had a problem. Could you have taken Backlund down, or would he have stretched you?
Why would that happen? Oy, oy, oy.
Take down? I might take him down if he let me.
Well, there you go. There's the answer right
you
there.
know, growing up during that time period, Bob Backlund, we always took very seriously because of his amateur background. You had to.
Yeah.
So he was clearly
I mean,
athletic.
he was a great. I mean, he is just a great athlete. You know, he played. He played football. You know, at North Dakota State, I think, and you know, he was amateur wrestler. He was All-American. You know, in wrestling and All-American in football. I mean, he was just a great athlete. A lot of guys came out of that Minnesota. You know, were good. You know, good athletes.
Can you compare Bruno to Backlund for me, if you can?
No, I don't think I can. I think they're just
Very different, obviously.
Two different individuals, two different styles. You know.
You were able to work with both, obviously, with no problem at all.
You know, I mean, I work with Bruno probably. Well, no, I work with them the same way, I guess. You know, but you know, they were two different styles. So you know, it was just different. But
Did you get butterflies? You were in pretty main events, right?
Man.
You were in the Shea Stadium, right?
Yep.
With Bruno, that
Yep.
finisher. And then you also had a steel cage match with Backlund in the
I
Garden.
remember that. Yep.
A guy, you know, did you get butterflies or was it just business?
Back in the day, Vince McMahon Sr. was looking for All-American boy to take over for Bruno Sammartino. And he looked all over the world. And he met a lot of people, and he saw a lot of people that he had working with him that do certain things. And then he saw me, and he called the promoters and asked who would be the best guy to be the All-American boy for my company. And every one of them said me. Because they knew I was reliable. They know that I would show up. They know I'd outwork everybody. And some of those people that were working for Vince Sr. were partying all the time. And I did the partying when I was 15 years old. I got over it. But that's how it started. And I want to be a role model. I want to do the right type of things. I want to help people. I love doing what I'm doing.